folks. How are you doing today? Happy Friday, because I'm recording this on a Friday. We want to deepen our discussion of climate and weather, and I found this nifty website that is a really cool visual display that, if we tweak around with the settings a little bit, shows us a lot about different weather and climate information at different points around the globe. For your assignment, you have a worksheet that you need to fill out. So I want to walk you through using this website to get as much information as you might need to fill out that worksheet and just to play around with, because I think this is a fun website. I've been playing around with it all morning to look up cool weather and climate statistics and compare different places. So I want to walk you through using this because there's a lot going on in here. You see a map of the Earth here. It's a color-coded map, so the colors indicate something. Here's how we figure out what they indicate. You see this little, in the lower left-hand side of the screen, it says Earth. If you click that, it'll open up this little pop-up window. There's a lot going on here, so I'm not going to explain everything, but I will explain the things that you need to know. Overlay is a very fun setting to play around with. You see some words that you might recognize, like wind, and if you hover it over, it explains wind speed. Temp, obviously that means temperature. RH, relative humidity, that we spent weeks learning about. And 3HPA is precipitation accumulation. I also like the misery index here. If you press that, it shows you wind, chill, and heat, and gives you a feels like temperature for wherever you're looking at in the world. So instead of just like the objective temperature on a thermometer, it tells you what people would feel if they're walking around, depending on how windy or humid it is on that given day. The overlay is kind of how you toggle the different information on the map. Projection is just how the map displays. Some of these are pretty freaky displays of the Earth. So if I press that, you see the Earth is all of a sudden like a half donut shape. If you need to reset the map at any point, or you just don't like your display, I recommend going over to E, equirectangular. Kind of shows a map that we're all familiar with a little bit more, where your 0 degrees of longitude is kind of in the middle of the map, and your 0 degrees of latitude is also running across the middle of the map. All right. 0 degrees longitude might be a little further right or left than the middle, but it doesn't really matter. We don't have that reference on this globe. Just if you need to reset the map, this is probably the best view to use. Click the E in projection. You will also want to play around with this setting that says control. Specifically, if you hit the calendar button here, you can use it to type in specific years, months, or days if you want to see the weather on a specific day. So if I was curious in 2013 what the weather was like in February, I could change the date that way, and then it would show me, there's no data if we go back that far. But if you're back in the last couple of years, so we'll move it up to 2016 and see if that works. If you apply the date, it changes the map a little bit so you can see specific conditions on that day and time. You have a scale here that can kind of tell you a little bit about whatever information or overlay you have going on. So if we change it to wind speed, it tells us that where things are blue, there's very low wind speed. If we get up into the green or the red, so for example, here in the Pacific Ocean, we see there's a very high wind speed circulating there where wind currents meet. And it changes depending on what overlay you have, so what information you're looking at. If I switch to temperature, we can see it changes again. We have a slightly different scale. If we compare it, we can kind of see that the redder colors generally are the warmer ones, and bluer or more violet colors are the colder temperatures. So we know how to display different information on this map to change the overlay and change the view. We also know how to set a specific time and date. What we don't know is how to see a specific location. So the first question on the worksheet draft that I'm working with right now asks us to look at New York City. There is not, unfortunately, a way to type in specific coordinates here, but you can get pretty close. What you'll want to do in another tab, Google coordinates and whatever location you're looking for. So New York City would be nice. I know the coordinates of New York City, we work with it a lot, are around 40 degrees north, 40.7 degrees north, and 74 degrees west. If I click on a specific location on the map, boom, tells me the coordinates of it. Also gives me some specific local information. If you click the units, you can change the display of the units. So I can change from, what are we looking at? We're looking at wind speed right now? Oh, we're looking at temperature. So if I look at wind speed, for example, the default display tells me the wind is going in a direction of 215 degrees at 37 kilometers an hour, but I can also change it to meters per second, or knots, or miles per hour, or what have you. You can also do that for like temperature. So if you're looking at temperature here, oh, I keep clicking about for some reason. Don't click about, it takes you to that page. You have to go back. But yeah, if I'm looking at temperature, it still gives me wind speed, but I can also click this to see degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit at the location I selected, or degrees Kelvin. We're going to leave it in Fahrenheit because we're Americans. You can also drag and zoom in on the map. So you can zoom in and out, or you can, for example, drag it like this. Some freaky stuff starts happening when you do that. So try not to do that. But zooming in and out will be useful if, for example, we need to get specifically to New York City. Our coordinates of New York City, remind me, 40.7 degrees north, 74 degrees west. I'm currently at 34.98 degrees north and 72 degrees west. I'm close, but I'm not quite there. Let's zoom in a little bit more so it's a little bit easier. Cities are unfortunately not pointed out on this map, so we kind of just have to click around and try to find it. We're looking for 30. There we go. You can see Long Island here if we zoom in. So we're at about 40.6 degrees north right now, 74 degrees west. This is as far as we can zoom in. So I can't get super exactly there, but I'm definitely in the ballpark. You can kind of see Manhattan just barely if you squint your eyes really closely. So I want to click until my coordinates are about where I'm trying to go to. And at that point, since you've clicked on a location, you're free to mess around with the overlay settings again to try to find what you need to find from this map. So if I'm looking for wind speed, I'll click wind now that I'm on New York specifically to look at wind speed. I might want to get knots because knots are kind of a cool unit. I could also look at relative humidity. It's going to tell me 85% relative humidity on this day in this location, so on, so forth. For what it's worth, if you want to use this map to check like ocean temperatures, it changes a lot of things. So you'll have to play around with this, but this can show you like ocean waves or currents. You could also use it to look at from space. If you want to see where the aurora borealis is on a given time and date, you can actually zoom out. Is it going to show it anywhere? I guess they didn't really have aurora borealis on this day anywhere in the world. But yeah, there's a lot of settings you can play around with that are kind of fun. That's a pretty basic overview of all the skills that you will need to use to answer and complete your assignment and to find the most interesting information from this map. Again, mode air is probably what you want to be in most of the time for the purposes of our course. Height, surface level, and not like way up in the atmosphere or anything. And click through the overlay to see different information. Use the scale to try to parse that information. And make sure you find the coordinates of the location you want to look at and go to those coordinates. So like if I want to go to Hawaii, boom. I would look up the specific coordinates of like Maui, for example, but you need to click over to where you want to get the weather and climate information. Pretty quick tutorial. Again, really cool map, so play around with it. Have some fun with it. I think it's really interesting just to explore in here a little bit. I hope we're all safe and healthy. Thank you for watching. I hope this video is helpful to you.